Pow! What's going on out there, YouTube? This is SCL0320 representing JVS. I'm back here again for an early movie review for an action-packed movie of this year, SPECTRE. I was able to get part of the early screenings for that. Thanks for the Movie Vault and another organization that actually helped out with it. So I looked at it with my friend Lucas. Just want to give y'all a heads up. This will be completely non-spoiler. I will record my spoiler-filled review tonight, but I will not be releasing it or posting it up until tomorrow because I don't want anybody to kind of get spoiled by any of this, because this is a lot of serious Easter eggs throughout most of this movie. But I'm going to go ahead and give the baseline format for what I thought about this movie, as well as how did the visuals line up, how did the action line up, how did the story develop as far as with the actors and their progression through the story. So I'll go ahead and say on record that this movie is a sequel to Skyfall. As well, I mean, of course, that's kind of self-explanatory because Daniel Craig is back in it, but you know how I mean. Like, a lot of James Bond films, they have one, it doesn't line up with continuity, but when you look at Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace is the direct sequel of that. But then when you look at Quantum of Solace going into Skyfall, there's a lot of gap in between, so it's not necessarily a sequel to it. But this one's definitely a sequel to Skyfall. But this movie actually brings everything full circle between all the rest of the other three movies. So, what did I think about the visual effects for this movie? Visual effects were actually, there weren't any heavy CG moments. There were some moments where, like, there's a action helicopter sequence where James Bond is like literally getting flipped around in a helicopter while actually trying to maintain his own life and fight off somebody inside a helicopter. And it was done really well. Like, I don't know if it was real or not. It seemed like there was parts of it that was real, and then parts of it that could have been definitely edited CG, or maybe a different stage where they had the actors kind of flipping around, kind of like in how they did Interstellar. Not Interstellar, but well, yeah, actually Interstellar as well. But I was thinking about the other one. Oh my gosh, how did I forget that movie? But anyway, the visual effects were good in the sense that there was a lot of practical effects. Like, every sequence from the fight sequences to the car chase sequences, they all seemed real and believable. You know what I mean? I think that there was a lot more explosions in this one than necessarily needs to be, specifically towards the end and in the middle, because they were kind of just like over the top just to be. And I was thinking about the fact that these locations where they are shooting at, they shoot all over the world. Like, I thought that the look of Skyfall was so beautiful. I mean, it was seriously one of the most beautiful movies that I've seen when that year was around when it came out. But this one goes even more different locations, and they're shot beautifully. The cinematics were awesome, even from the first stage when you actually see James Bond. Like, when he first pops up in the beginning of the movie, you don't even recognize that it's James Bond until the way he walks. And there's a set where they're in New Mexico and it's the Day of the Dead. And when you see him, like, it kind of shoots off perfectly. As well as the actual theme. Like, the actual James Bond theme for this one. This one might be one of the better visual ones that I've seen them actually do. As far as, like, how Sam's music video went out, that's one thing. But the way that it lined up with the beginning of it, it was done really well, because it was really scary at moments, but at the same exact time it was cool. And I mean, I think for any James Bond movie, that's one of the most important parts, is that opening. It's got to be kind of that classic lineup, as well as how they perform it. So I talked about the visuals. I'll say that there are not a lot of action sequences in this movie. What I mean by that is, like, there's some fights. Like, there's a fight between Daniel Craig and Dave Bautista that's probably one of the better fights that I've seen, like, James Bond ever had to go through. And it was done really well as far as the execution, as far as the set. It was staged perfectly. Even from, like, when James meets up with Q, like, there's a certain kind of theme there. It's like, what kind of new technology is going to be? It's captured perfectly, it's set perfectly, but there's not a lot of action sequences that really happen. There are a lot of thrilling moments, there are a lot of things that are happening to James Bond, but it's not necessarily towards the very end. I mean, there's a lot of things that kind of come off cliche as far as an action set piece, but it doesn't remove from the effect of what you're getting from the immersion being in the actual movie and actually seeing it. So, what did I think about the soundtrack? The soundtrack was actually really good. I thought that the soundtrack and the theme throughout most of it, it had a really great tempo to it. I mean, I think Skyfalls was really good, but this one was done really well. Only thing that I wish that they would have done, and I think that they try to keep a different approach to it, is that when you actually see like a fight sequence is going on, you don't hear like the pow, like you hear the background noise. So if there's a helicopter flipping around and they're fighting, you don't hear them actually going blow for blow. All you hear is kind of like the sound muffled from what's actually really happening. And that goes throughout most of the movie. Whenever there's an actual sequence going on, you don't necessarily hear the blow for blow or even like the gunshot. Like you hear kind of everything that's in the background, unless there's nothing there in the background. Now maybe they try to keep a realistic effect for that. I'm not really sure. But I mean, it doesn't like detract from the visuals or the music when that happens. It was kind of like a little pet peeve for me, because I had been used to like hearing all that. And not just that, even when I look at Casino Royale or even like Skyfall, there's so much action in it that this one kind of feels more nostalgic. And this goes a good segue into the acting in this one. So the acting with Daniel Craig, with everybody that was involved, such as Christoph Waltz, who plays the villain of this one, which I'm not gonna talk about his character too much because I don't want to spoil anything. You've got, of course, Ralph Fiennes. He's back as M. Monica Bellucci was in it, but she was only in it for a second. And one of the things I feel like detracted from that was, I don't know if she necessarily should have been in the movie, because I don't know what relevance she had. And they don't really explain the relevance other than, like I said, this is a nostalgic kind of feel for this movie. Any of the older James Bonds, Bond would go and hook up with different girls. He would go and like be with them and then just go. And you wouldn't see that girl anymore. There's no payoff. There's no reasoning behind the meetup. It's just him being what he is, which is kind of, in a sense, it comes off being a womanizer / a protector. But I mean, there's a lot of that. Like, I mean, Daniel Craig's character, he plays off the Pierce Brosnan, the old school version of Bond, and the way he interacts with women and the way he has these one-liners in this one. And I think that's gonna definitely bring like remembrance to a lot of the old fans of the series. If any of y'all remember the older ones, not to say starting with Casino Royale, like this is the James Bond that people said that Daniel Craig couldn't be, and he plays that to a perfection. Like he does a really good job of playing that old school version. For me though, I think that my problem was I looked at Skyfall and I was like, I want to see this man unraveled. You know what I mean? Like I want to see him like not just be assured of who and what he is, but like how can this man break or teeter at this point, given like how Skyfall really truly ended and him having the revelation that he needed to be there, you know? But that's not to say that there are not any stakes, because Christoph Waltz's character, he raises the stakes. And not just that, his connection to everything is really well done. I mean, when he finally does confront Bond the second time, you really feel like this sense of like kind of dread, and like it's really interesting how their whole dynamics go back and forth. Only thing I regret is I felt like towards the third act that Christoph Waltz's character kind of became a cliche on top of a cliche because of who his character means to Bond and the legacy of the Bond franchise. So, but either way, I mean, it's not to say that Christoph Waltz didn't do a good job. It's just that's kind of how I felt going into it. So Dave Bautista, Naomie Harris, what did they do? So Naomie Harris, I liked her character as Moneypenny. I love her character as Moneypenny, to be quite honest with you. Like, I was looking for a lot more with the interaction towards the third act with Bond and her. I didn't necessarily get that, and I wish they would have kind of dwelled into that a little bit more, as well as even Dave Bautista. Like his character is a classic character that I'm not gonna reveal to you. It's kind of obvious, but like the way that he pursues Bond and the way that they go and collide, like it's some of the best action pieces there. And like he was not present in the third act as much as I thought he was supposed to be. But that's not to say like when he was on screen that he wasn't, you know, scary and riveting. I was like, man, this is tight, you know. But like I said, like a lot of this plays into kind of like the old form nostalgic moments of Bond. Like you got a villain there, you take care of him, or he dies, or he doesn't die, and it's not like any deep seated things, but with Christoph Waltz's character, there is a deep underlying thing, this connection with Bond. That's all I can really say without spoiling too much. Not just that, like another person, Andrew Scott, who plays the role of C. If you don't know who Andrew Scott is, he played Moriarty in the Sherlock series that's on BBC. The dude can act, and he's a great stage presence. And I mean, one thing that I wanted to see Christoph Waltz's character and Andrew Scott together, and that didn't necessarily happen the way that I really wanted. And I kind of regret that they didn't go that route, because they're such great actors, but they had a reason for it. And like I said, I think this movie, without even talking about the story, is a love song to those fans that love the old ones and couldn't believe that this world would revolve into how, you know, Pierce Brosnan and all of them went with it. And I think this does do that. Like, it does that on a better way than any of the rest of them do, but it doesn't follow the path and the dire straits that basically Bond is always going through in this new trilogy or this new series. So, I mean, it's not that I didn't feel as though there was danger there, but at the same time I didn't, you know, because I knew, like, this is playing out like how the older ones always do. So I mean, I say that to say the story, to me, it was well done, it was well executed, it paid homage from a nostalgic standpoint, as well as re-rounding the whole entire franchise. And when you think about the villains that he's faced off with and the things that have happened to him, they all go full circle. And then, like, I think the person that played what was it, Mr. White, I think his name is Jesper Christensen. I liked his character in this more than I have. I mean, since the first movie when he was in Casino Royale at the very end and how he captured him to that point, like, I was like, this all makes sense. This is one of the best things I've seen tie into the whole franchise. But even like what James Bond is doing, I was like, this is really good development in the beginning, towards the middle, and then it kind of just like phased out for me in a certain way. So that's not to say this is a bad movie at all. This is really one of the better action movies I've seen this year, as well as one of the better Bond movies out of the franchise. But was it better than Skyfall? I do not think so. Skyfall, I gave it a 10 out of 10. This movie, I can't do that because it didn't have the amount of action I wanted. It didn't have the life and breath that, like, shoot, Javier Bardem, he came off of nothing and gave us the timeless character. Not saying that Christoph Waltz's character wasn't, but like I said, it's a nostalgic moment on top of a nostalgic moment, and that's the reason why it kind of deflated on certain standpoints towards the third act. But what do I give this as a rating? I give this one 8 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10. I'm back on the fence. I'm gonna go see it again this weekend. If anything changes between then, I'll let y'all know for sure. But definitely go and check it out. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below when you do see it. And stay tuned for the spoiler-filled review that I'm going to have for Spectre. I want to give a shout out to my physical therapy team. Nicole, Anna, all y'all. Y'all are freaking awesome because y'all have been getting my arms situated and stuff like that. And they're able to get me taken care of quick enough that I could actually go to the movie. So I really appreciate y'all. Much love to y'all. And till next time, everybody. I'm about to go see what Joe did with this Arrow review. You know what I'm saying? Y'all have a blessed night. This is JVS SCL 0320 signing out. Peace.